What's up, gang? Case here with our in-gym strength work for Monday, February 1st. 4 sets of 5 back squats and push press today, supersetting those movements, so flip-flopping back and forth, resting roughly a minute in between those movements, and then building across those 4 working sets. I wanted to give you guys an example. We'll use back squat for this, but these same principles can apply to push press as well on how to properly build through a 4x5 back squat day, making sure you get in an adequate warm up, as well as making sure you're taking proper jumps once you get to those working sets. So for your warm up today, really you're going to get 4 to 5 warm up sets. 3 of those are going to be increasing in load, and then that first warm up set is going to include several reps with an empty barbell. So that might be a big unbroken set. That might be a few sets of 5 that we do as a class, focusing on some technique piece. So getting several reps in with an empty bar, then making normally your biggest initial jump for that first set of 5 for a warm-up. From there, taking a moderate jump, so with this example, a 40-pound jump for that second set of 5, a smaller jump as we're approaching the end of those warm-up sets, so a 20-pound jump for that third set of 5 on your warm-up set. And then based off how that feels, that's where you'll hit, or that's where you'll make that call for your first working set. So if you feel like you've still got plenty left in the tank and you're going to be able to build throughout those next 4 sets, you can make another jump. Once again, you don't want it to be a big jump, so still getting smaller, only a 10-pound jump there between that last warm-up set and that first working set. Once we get into those working sets today, make only a 10-pound jump between your sets, or up to a 10-pound jump. It could be 5-pound jumps if you want it to, but we want a lot of heavy work done across these 4 sets. This bottom example is what we typically tend to see when people are squatting for a 4x5. They'll start at a little bit lighter, and then they'll build with bigger jumps. These are 20-pound jumps, getting up to that last weight. And a lot of times I think that's because that last weight is the number they have in their head, and they're just going to take some easier sets early on so that they know they're ready to go for that last set. But we want a lot of heavy work done across all 4 of these sets today. So I'm going to recommend smaller jumps, only 10-pound jumps. And if you look at the end result, if you take those smaller jumps, you'll end up lifting 3,600 pounds total across all those sets and reps, versus only 3,300 pounds total across those sets and reps on that bottom example. Once again, those same principles can apply to your push press as well. We still only want to take a 5 to 10 pound jump, and we need at least 3 to 4 warm-up sets before we start those working sets. We'll be back in just a moment for some technique tips on back squat and push press. All right, gang, technique tips for our back squats and push press today. One big focus point on our back squats, and that's going to be, where do you feel tension and where do you feel load on this lift? If we can really nail the technique pieces, then we can relate that to how this movement should feel and what muscles we should be contracting in order to keep ourselves safe, as well as to perform our best to lift our heaviest load. So big problem that we see on back squats a lot is people lose that core tension. They might start with a rib down position, but even as they initiate the squat, they'll start to arch that low back. They'll lose tension through that low core, and then they feel a lot of pressure on their low back. So we don't want to feel pressure on our low back when we're in the bottom of that squat. We want to feel that tension through our middle. Another place we see people go wrong a lot is they found their squat stance. They like to open those knees up nice and wide, because it gives them the mobility they need to get to the bottom, but then all of that tension is right there on the inside of the hip. We want to get in an ideal position to give us good mobility, but when we load, we want to make sure that we're keeping our weight back in our heels and trying to keep most of that feeling, most of that load back here through our butt and hamstrings. So that's our go-tos today. When we set up on this back squat, we're going to pull those ribs down, and that way we know that belly's tight, so squeezing our belly tight. And then when we initiate, we're going to send the hips back, then down, still keeping that belly tight. And in the bottom, we should feel that tension in the butt, hamstrings, and belly. Drive through that full foot to stand to the top. Ribs down, feel tension through the belly. Shift those hips back, load up butt and hamstrings. Make sure you can still feel that same tension in the bottom and drive up. For our 5 reps today on these sets, it's still a controlled down, no bounce out of the bottom, but strong, powerful, and faster on the way to the top. On our push press today, 2 focus points. One is going to be getting our hips fully extended so we feel our butt squeeze before we ever start to push with our arms. And then the other one is going to be making sure our elbow is in the right pressing position as that barbell comes off of our shoulder. So we still want barbell sitting on the shoulder so that when we dip and drive, we can use our legs to throw that bar off the shoulder, but we don't want a super high elbow because that's not going to put us in a strong pressing position. And then we don't want those elbows too far back because then we lose that shoulder shelf. So tips today, fully extend those hips before we move our arms, hips, then arms, and then keeping the bar on the shoulder, but elbow just slightly in front of the bar so that we're in our strongest pressing position. On those 5 reps today, if you need to catch and reset, that's fine. Or if you feel okay catching in your dip and firing into that next rep, that's fine as well. 4 sets of 5 on both movements today, building across those sets. Good luck on your strength work, and we'll see you back soon for our Metcon.